What's going on? You're watching NFL Daily, and I'm going to take you through the Pittsburgh Steelers 2019 schedule. Last season, the Steelers just missed the playoffs at 9-6-1. So what can they do to get in the playoffs this year? Guess what? They need to be able to show up and prove that they don't need Antonio Brown and that they don't need Le'Veon Bell, because those two players were hands down the biggest losses this offseason. Now, sure, they didn't have Le'Veon Bell last year, but the headache, I guarantee, was a big distraction. Now, the Steelers did add Steven Nelson, Mark Barron, and Donte Moncrief. Donte Moncrief is an interesting player. I think he's going to battle it out with James Washington for that wide receiver 2 spot, because we know that Juju is going to be the wide receiver 1. Speaking of Juju, he's been absolutely great all offseason and heck had 111 catches, and I think the Steelers right now are looking at all this AB drama in Oakland, and they're like, yeah, that's why we got rid of him. But the Steelers did miss the playoffs for the first time in 2013, and Mike Tomlin, between you and me, if he misses it again this year, he might be on the hot seat. So they better get off to a hot start week 1 at New England. Sunday Night Football. Steelers, Patriots, starting it off with a bang. I absolutely love this game. Week 2 versus the Seahawks, another tough game. Week 3 at the 49ers. That's 3 really tough games, but then hey, then you got the Cincinnati Bengals on Monday Night Football. That's a win. Week 5 versus the Baltimore Ravens. This is going to probably be like a 9-6 game. Anytime the Ravens and Steelers go head-to-head, it is an absolute smash-mouth football game. Week 6 at the Chargers on Sunday Night Football. Another tough game against a team that was 12-4 last year. The NFL, not so kind to the Steelers, but luckily then they have a Week 7 bye where they can recuperate, and then they get the Miami Dolphins on Monday Night Football. Whoa, boy. Week 9 versus the Colts, Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger, 2 teams that are absolutely going to sling the ball all over the football field. Week 10 versus the Rams, 12-4 last season. One of the best teams in the NFC throughout the entire year. Went to the NFC Championship game, won that, went to the Super Bowl, and laid up a big old goose egg there. Week 11 at the Browns, Baker Mayfield, Ben Roethlisberger, Thursday Night Football. Week 12 at the Cincinnati Bengals. I expect them to beat the Bengals handily. Week 13 versus the Browns. Week 13 versus the Browns. You remember when the Steelers and Browns played last year? They tied. Fingers crossed we don't get a tie this year. Week 14 is at the Cardinals. Enter Kyler Murray's realm. You're going to go to Big Red, going to go to the Big Toaster. You're going to find out what this Steelers team can do over the last back half of their season. Week 15 versus the Bills. Week 16 at the Jets. If you can't beat the Bills and Jets, probably shouldn't even be in the playoffs. Week 17 at the Ravens. How many times does the final game for the Steelers come down to a make or break situation? Do not be surprised if Week 17 at the Ravens decides who wins this division and whether or not one of those 2 teams, Ravens or Steelers, makes the playoffs. So the Steelers last season, 9-6-1. Wasn't good enough to make the playoffs. So I want you guys to predict the Steelers' record in 2019. No Antonio Brown. Ben Roethlisberger led the league last year in passing yards. You know you're not going to have Le'Veon Bell. Predict the Steelers' record, because if they don't make the playoffs, Mike Tomlin, I really consider, is going to be on the hot seat. So I'm going to ask you guys one more time. Predict the Steelers' 2019 record. For me, I'm going to predict them around 9 wins. That is a very tough schedule. But 9 wins, I still think it's going to be a competitive division, might be enough to win the AFC North. And if you want to bet on the Steelers making the playoffs, winning the Super Bowl, or making, 10 wins, 11 wins, bet on every single game this year at MyBookie. Chatsports.com/MyBookie. Use our promo code. It's on there on screen. Really simple. Chat NFL for 100% deposit bonus. Put down $300, you got $300. You want to put down $100, you're going to get $100 for free. Thanks to our sponsor, MyBookie, chatsports.com/MyBookie. Now let's look at a very key game. You got to get off right. And if you want to compete, you got to go up against the defending Super Bowl champions right away. Sunday Night Football, Ben Roethlisberger, Tom Brady. If the Steelers can come away with a win here in Foxborough, this is a huge step. But I will say, in the past, Big Ben has struggled against the New England Patriots. Week 2 versus the Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, 2 of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. How are they going to match up? The Steelers last year led the league, or were top 3 in the league in passing yards. Ben Roethlisberger led the league with 5,129 passing yards. Is he going to be able to keep up those high metrics high numbers, 34 touchdowns, without his go-to dude, Antonio Brown, who had 6 straight years of over 1,000 yards. Week 3, you go up against the 49ers. Jimmy Garoppolo, you got to go up against Tevin Coleman, Jerick McKinnon if he's healthy, Dante Pettis. How is this Steelers secondary going to be able to deal with George Kittle? It's a matchup that I'm going to be very intrigued to watch. Week 4 versus the Bengals, Monday Night Football. I think at this point, the Steelers going into Week 4 versus the Bengals are going to be 2-1. After Week 4, 3-1 for the Bengals, which means then Week 5 versus the Ravens. I think the Steelers are going to be sitting at 3-1. Ravens Steelers, it seems like these are the only 2 teams that ever even compete for the AFC North. Last season, the Ravens 10-6. The Steelers 9-6-1. The Pittsburgh Steelers need to be able to win this game at home, because if you're 4-1 going into Sunday Night Football against the Chargers, you're sitting really pretty. Phillip Rivers, we know that he's a very good quarterback. Melvin Gordon, is he going to be playing at this time? I want someone actually to tell me yes or no on that. But then you also have this elite defense. You have Joey Bosa, Melvin Ingram. Solid players who are going to be able to get after the quarterback, okay? Solid players being able to get after Big Ben. Week 7, you have a bye. And I think by this time, we're going to be able to really figure out what the wide receivers for the Steelers actually look like. Because the guy second on that list, Antonio Brown, he's not on the team anymore, and I know that you guys know that. But he also had 15 touchdowns last year, which led the league. So Juju Smith-Schuster entering year 3, which is the breakout year for wide receivers. What can he do to really get this offense moving? Vance McDonald, I like this tight end a lot. 610 receiving yards, all reports that he is going to be a bigger cog in the wheel. And then James Conner. James Conner last year, a huge, was able to basically just make everyone forget about Le'Veon Bell. And I want to see what this guy can do with a full offseason knowing that he is the go-to guy. Now let's go to Week 8 versus the Dolphins on Monday Night Football. If the Pittsburgh Steelers lose to the Dolphins on Monday Night Football, y'all don't deserve to make the playoffs. I'm sorry. The Dolphins are the one team where every single team should show up and get a win. But here's the thing with the Steelers, and I know that you guys know this. The Steelers, they can play certain teams, and the good teams, they play really well. Then they play some teams, like the Oakland Raiders last year, and have a big old L ticket. If the Steelers can't win this game on Monday Night Football, shame on you, Pittsburgh. Week 9 versus the Colts, Andrew Luck, Ben Roethlisberger. There's going to be like 100 points scored in this game. Fingers crossed. Week 10, let's look now at the Rams, okay? Week 10 game versus the Rams. Jared Goff, Todd Gurley, you have Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Brandon Cooks. Like, this Rams team can move the football. Then you also got to worry about this guy who's a pretty good, what's his name? Aaron Donald. Yeah, voted as the best player in the NFL. Aaron Donald, if you can control him, man, good things coming for the Steelers. Now, if you love the NFL, subscribe to Chat Sports, because this isn't just a brag. This is just me straight up like telling you. We are the most interactive sports channel on YouTube. So if you guys want to tell me that you're smarter than me, you want to have an actual conversation, I want this show and I want Chat Sports to be like you and I are sitting down at a restaurant. You and I are sitting down at a bar. We're talking sports. We're going to put you up on screen. We're going to interact. We're going to have a good time. So love the NFL. Subscribe to Chat Sports, YouTube's most interactive sports channel. Click that big red button below, or you see that link, youtube.com/chatsportstv. Let's keep it rolling now with a key game for the Pittsburgh Steelers, going up against the Cleveland Browns. The Browns, 7-8-1 last year, tied the Pittsburgh Steelers. But there has been no team this entire offseason has more hype around than the Browns. You have Baker Mayfield, who threw for 27 touchdowns last year, the most by a rookie. You add Kareem Hunt. You add, well, I shouldn't say you add. You have Nick Chubb, but then you also add a wide receiver like OBJ. This Browns team is going to be very, very exciting. But you know what's the easiest way to be able to keep an elite offense off the field is with a solid running game. And that's where James Conner is going to come in. 973 rushing yards last year, 12 touchdowns. The one thing that I love about James Conner, all of Le'Veon Bell's entire career thing that he couldn't do was score touchdowns. What did James Conner do? Score touchdowns. And I absolutely love this kid. I can't wait to see what he can do in a full year where he knows that he is the main running back. James Conner's thing is, can he stay healthy? Week 11 at the Browns, Thursday Night Football. Week 12 at the Bengals. If you can't beat the Bengals, the worst team in your division, it's a major, major question mark there from me to you. Then you got to play the Browns right back again. But this time, it's in Pittsburgh. The Steelers need to be able to win their home games. Ben Roethlisberger, the thing that I I think is sometimes not fair for him is people think that he's only good at home. He's actually proven the last 2 years that that's not true. Look for the Steelers to beat this Browns team week 13. Week 14 at the Cardinals. A tough game. Kyler Murray, how are they going to be able to match up against him? Bills, Jets. Bills had a fun and exciting offseason. Week 16 at the Jets. There is no doubt in my mind that this game is circled on the Steelers' calendar. Good job, NFL, for putting it on there. I can't wait to see them slow down Le'Veon Bell and just make Adam Gase just go all googly-eyed again. Week 17 at the Ravens. Like I said before, this is going to be a big game determining whether or not the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be able to make the playoffs. Now, I want to ask you guys this question because once the Steelers missed the playoffs last year, I said, yeah, Mike Tomlin should be on the hot seat. Tell me a team that has more talent on it, especially on the offensive side of the football, than the Pittsburgh Steelers have had the last 3 years. You had Le'Veon Bell, one of the best running backs. You had Antonio Brown, one of the best wide receivers. Ben Roethlisberger, a future Hall of Fame quarterback. And you missed the playoffs last season. And ever since that they've won a Super Bowl, what really have they done in the postseason? I'm just saying. So should Mike Tomlin be on the hot seat? Type Y for yes or type N for no.